I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. What's up, world, and welcome to this special members and patrons only edition of I Mix What I Like. A big thank you from me personally and from us here collectively at BPM for your support for our work here at the channel. And one of the things that I thought I would want to do to show my own personal appreciation is to sort of host a, um, a slow motion walkthrough not a recent, a document I received recently that is of some years old now, and is written by one of our favorite guests and philosophers and political activists and theorists, etc., Dhoruba bin Wahad, when he was a member of the Black Liberation Army. And the document, we've done this a little bit with the study guide separately that was sort of reintroduced to my attention a couple of years ago or a year or so ago. But more recently, it was reintroduced to me, and I'll credit the source when I'm clear that they're wanting to be publicly identified as being the source for this. It's not that it's out there. The document is out there. I just haven't looked at it in a very long time, and certainly not with this level of focus or clarity or specific even reference to some of the work I'm interested in, myopically. But it's the message to the Black movement, a political statement from the Black underground. So I thought, let's take a slow motion walkthrough and do a sort of a series of, again, member and patron only discussions of this. So definitely after you check out what I have to say here, make sure that you make your thoughts known, by
put it in the comments.
And let's start a conversation here that will be reflected in some more full platform public work with Dhoruba and some others with me in the not too distant future, and of course throughout the BPM platform as this kind of regularity that is the presence of Dhoruba. So let's get into it. Cool statement from the Black underground. And we do know now, Dhoruba said it on the platform, confirmed it, but that he was the primary author of this in the study guide. And what I want to do is just go through a little bit of it. Again, a slow motion walkthrough. It's not that long. It's only about 16 pages, but I want to do this in a couple of segments to keep them shorter a little bit, and then also to again, selfishly make a couple of my own little points, for the work that I'm more, immediately focused on. And of course, we'll have Dhoruba and others on to talk about the work beyond just what I'm having to say about it, and on the platform more broadly. But I thought this would be a good way of, again, starting the conversation. So again, as you see here, it's already being dedicated to the Black community from the Black movement, a political state, or to the Black movement from the Black underground, specifically the Black Liberation Army, and dedicated to all comrades killed, captured, and exiled in the struggle to build the armed urban guerrilla front, and to those who supported us when all others refused to face up to reality. The season of struggle is our season. And you see pictured here some of the legendary faces of the Black Liberation movement and political prisoners. Sada, most famously probably, but and then here at the table of context, Malcolm Dhoruba himself are pictured. So I'm just going to go through the introduction and overview for this starter piece, and then we'll end up going through the whole thing, and I'll of course make sure the document is available so people can see it for themselves. And you'll have to forgive the notes that I and my comrade have already put on here when you get your copy, but nonetheless, you will have it. All right, so let me just start off by saying from the jump that some of this is not redacted. What you're seeing here is not a redaction, but it's the way the highlight, the green, and some of the mostly green highlights that I can't remove show up with the green screen here. So I'll But so we'll have to work around that. But um, uh, essentially and just as they say here at the introduction, the following is a political overview and statement of general political positions. We have written these political positions from the perspective of the armed front because we feel that such a perspective is needed in the total revolutionary process for Black liberation. We are general in our public statement because we are essentially a military and political front. Therefore, it would not do to speak in any other terms, for the actions of the armed front will address themselves to the specifics of our people's national oppression. We do not wish the enemy to gain tactical insight in carrying out his repressive campaigns, while on the other hand, we do desire that the Black liberation movement understand the correct role armed struggle plays in a people's struggle and how this role is in motion for us here in North America. Now, from my own perspective, obviously, as someone not advocating armed struggle, this last line is of particular interest to me. That because while I'm not advocating armed struggle, I do think it's important that, particularly as we consider where we are today and what is to be done today, that for whatever we decide we want to do, that we at least recognize historically what others have done, why they chose to do what they did, and the ultimate impact or uh, substance that those actions meant for the broader movement. In other words, we can't just ignore that these things took place, and we shouldn't uh, be discouraged by the omission of these histories by bourgeois or liberal or conservative mainstream versions of these histories. So, and it's, I think, and again, here, I think it's wonderful that we have the opportunity to hear from themselves directly through these documents, and then in particular through the still living and engaged participation of Dhoruba himself. So, uh, uh, whatever we think about the conclusions or the actions taken, I think the analysis that led them to these conclusions is of immense importance. So that's what, so as they say here, and again, I'm not going to read through the word for word, but I just, want to start the conversation, and obviously each of you can read it on your own and make the use of it what you will. But I do think it's important to highlight, as they say here, that the tool of analysis is for us a further development of the historical materialist method, the dialectical method. We will not even waste our time debating the values of Marxism with those who are emotionally hung up on white people, hung up to the point of ideological blindness. We understand the process of revolution, and fundamental to this understanding is this fact: Marxism is developed to a higher level when it is scientifically adapted to a people's unique national condition. So again, you know, I obviously agree with this general. See, that's why I had to. So if I'll have to change anyway. I'll come back to that. But essentially that is, what I think is of great importance and still relevant to this day, as we see it even taking place on this platform. The tug and pull between African centered or cultural nationalism or other variants of Black radicalism and historical materialists. And I don't mean to demean or disrespect anyone, but I just want to raise up and praise anyone who engages in radical thought and analysis that is meant to better the condition of the collective. So I wouldn't want anyone from one camp, so to speak, to demean folks for either side that they pick. I really would want each side to engage the other in an honest way, actually study what each is saying, and then reach the conclusions for themselves. But I definitely agree with this point here that we can't be emotionally hung up on white people to the point of ideological blindness. And I think that's so. As they conclude here at the bottom, we are not afraid of white people controlling our movement. For our formations, guns, and ideas are built with our own hands, efforts, and blood. So again, I think that's important just in terms of that last point, because they're saying, look, we're updating Marx's analysis. We're updating the analysis of historical materialism and making it particular, as they say here, to the unique national condition of Black people here in North America. So it's not an issue of was Marx white, is it Eurocentric, et cetera, and so forth. It's a question of what will move the people here to a higher stage of struggle, and one that's really meant to end the oppressive condition as opposed to maintain it, or replace it with a darker skinned version. So just moving ahead, just here a little bit to this next part of the overview, and then in subsequent segments we'll continue this discussion and read through the entire document. But as they say here, we will start with the basic fact that capitalism and imperialism as an economical system is in deep crisis at home and abroad. The basis of this crisis is, of course, the exploitative relationships that capital must maintain in order to function. It is these economic, social, and political relationships that signal the eventual doom of our oppressors and the system of oppression under which we all live. This next paragraph, though, is for me, most notably in advance,
now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Just in advance, because and it really does speak to a lot of the sort of work I've been focused mostly on, and the concern that I have been having, increasingly so with Black capitalism and its purveyors and its logic and its defenders. But again, ultimately, all I would really want to say, regardless of whether people agree with me, is that we cannot deny this analysis. We cannot deny that these ideas exist, have existed, and have been playing a major role in Black liberation struggles throughout the diaspora. So anyway, so as is written here, the crisis of capitalism is of a protracted nature. By this, we mean it is a long process of deterioration that is spread over a considerable length of time. The seeming material wealth which we see all around us is in no way, let me start that again. The seeming material wealth which we see all around us in no way contradict this fact of decay, deterioration, or the fact of crisis. In fact, overproduction and uneven distribution have led time and time again to a bloated market, cutbacks in employment, and all the attendant ills of an economy based on private ownership of socially produced commodities. Inflation, soaring prices, and inadequate wages are all symptoms of an economy that is based primarily on class exploitation at home and national domination of the third world resources abroad. So again,
now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
And you got to
message.
Hear that. Hear the
message.
The crisis is protracted. So it almost reminds me the argument between creationists and evolution, that defenders of the deity want to argue that because we don't see evolution happening in our lifetime, that somehow it can't be real. And there are others who want to say, sort of, because I see in my small circles or in my life some improvement, or if I can say I have this house and my grandfather and grandmother or whatever lived in a hut or in some sort of worse condition, that I can see the progress and advance of capitalism and its value even to Black people who are supposed to be oppressed and in struggle. But the reality is it's protracted. So you're not always going to see it over time, and you're not always going to see it. And I would just, add it in terms of space in your location. In other words, you might see a nominal shift in one way or another, and use that to define the entire, situation mistakenly. So this is how Black capitalists today use their singular and limited experience to promote this idea that the collective can do the same thing and overcome. But that's not how it works. The seeming material wealth which which we see all around us, in no way contradicts this fact of decay, deterioration, or the fact of crisis. In fact, overproduction and uneven distribution have led time and time again to a bloated market cutback. So if you're in that pocket of uneven distribution where things look good, then of course you're gonna want to extrapolate from that and say everything can be good for everybody else. And especially if your position in that uneven, that positive end, or the accumulated end of that bloated economy is because you're promoting the mythology, then of course you're going to continue to do it to the detriment of everybody else. So I even going back and reading something that's supposed to be 50, 60 years old, it's still exactly right on point. So just continue with this next paragraph, and please forgive again. I can't get rid of the green screened out line here. It's not at all redacted, but this paragraph reads: the heightening of oppressed people's struggles abroad have added to the crisis of the entire Western world and threatened to cut drastically its essential resources. This line again is why we do soda here, because it's not about some silly empty affinity for other groups of people to the detriment of one's own. It's about recognizing the relationship globally of an economic system and of the oppression it causes and creates, and the links it causes among those who are oppressed by that system. And recognizing also that at the time this document is written, there was a higher level or a higher stage of struggle around the world. Or maybe I should say different. It was a different form of struggle happening at the time that this was written, and folks here were recognizing its positive impact. That is, the global struggle's positive impact on people here. So this idea among some that we should cut ourselves off from that struggle out of some silly antagonism is tactically flawed, even if philosophically and whatever else one would want to somehow find value in it. We realize that the chief economical and military power in the Western world and its ruling class, namely the United States of North America and its corporate financial ruling circles, will never allow the demise of its empire without desperate fight. We as Blacks in North America must realize, and this is the part that you can't see here, unfortunately, that it says that to seek inclusion into the prevailing socioeconomic system is suicide in the long run, for the prevailing system cannot withstand the irresistible world trend of history, which is opposed to continued U.S. exploitation, racist domination, and subjugation. To fool ourselves into believing that equal opportunity, justice, and social equality is the same as the capitalist system is a grave mistake with genocidal implications for every person of color. So again, as they say in the very next line, it is our first obligation to ourselves. This means to our first obligation to secure our total liberation from those forces that maintain our oppressive condition. That obligation is born out of the recognition of the previous line that you cannot find. There is no such thing as equal opportunity, justice, and social equality in this economy. It just doesn't exist. So whether you put Black in front of it or advanced, or advanced stage, or crony, or whatever other, it doesn't matter. There is no solution for the collective in this. So then just finally, as they wrap up here, and again in the unfortunately, oh no, I can remove it. There we go. The BLA, as a result of realizing the economical nature of the system under which we are forced to live, maintains the following principles: that we are anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, and anti-sexist; that we must of necessity strive for the abolishment of these systems and for the institution of socialistic relationships in which Black people have total and absolute control over their own destiny as a people; that in order to abolish our system of oppression, we must utilize the science of class struggle, develop the science as it relates to our unique condition. So there it is. Just a relatively quick look at the introduction and overview of A Message to the Black Movement, a political statement from the Black Underground, and definitely want to continue to go through the document with our patrons and members. So thank you all for your support of the channel, and definitely let us know what you think by
put it in the comments.
But again, I just think it's very important to pay tribute to that work and to see its continued relevance. So big shout out to the comrade that sent me this, and I look forward to building with them and with Dhoruba and others and all of you more as we go through this some more and buttress ourselves against all of the myth making and propaganda that's out there, encouraging us to all kinds of other forms of analysis, interpretation, politics, and action. So again, peace, like Fred Hampton used to say, only if you're willing to fight for it. Catch you next time here at I Mix What I Like. And big thanks again to our members and patrons here at BPM. Thanks again. Peace.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.